Hey guys, what's going on? MJ Madness here, and the Stanley Cup Playoffs are right around the corner. So today I'm going to be giving you my complete playoff preview, breaking down every single matchup from the first round all the way up to the Stanley Cup Finals. So without further ado, let's get things started with the All-Canadian North Division. And our very first matchup has the 1-seeded Toronto Maple Leafs taking on the 4-seeded Montreal Canadiens. And this one should be a lot of fun. Two teams with a lot of history. One of those teams in Toronto has a lot of expectations, and I think this should be a good matchup between two teams that do have a lot of skill. In the end, though, I really think the Leafs are the better squad, and I think that'll shine through in this matchup. Montreal could get hot. I know Carey Price has shown the ability to steal series in the past, and I think a lot of their success depends on him. But in the end, I don't think Montreal will be able to keep up with the firepower that Toronto has up front, and I think that should be enough for them to pretty easily cruise through this first round matchup. So I am taking the Leafs in 5 games. The other first round matchup in the North Division has the 2-seeded Edmonton Oilers up against the 3-seeded Winnipeg Jets. This one is another interesting one. I really like this Winnipeg team. I think they have a lot of skill, a lot of big bodies up front, good goaltending. They have some weaknesses on D, but overall, they have talent. But in the end, they've really been struggling to end the season, and they've been good against most teams, but for some reason, Edmonton has really had their number this season. So even though I like the Jets a lot, and I'm not sold on the Oilers because I think there's not enough depth behind, of course, that dynamic duo of Draisaitl and McDavid for this first round matchup, considering history, considering how much Edmonton has had Winnipeg's number this season, considering the slump that the Jets are on, I think that'll be enough for the Oilers to win this first round series, so I am taking Edmonton in 6 games. Now moving down to the West Division, this is a very interesting division with a lot of highly skilled teams. And the first matchup has the 1-seeded Colorado Avalanche against the 4-seeded St. Louis Blues. Now, the Avalanche won the President's Trophy this season. They obviously have a lot of talent, a lot of firepower, but they are not going up against slouches in these 4-seeded St. Louis Blues because even though they may be the lowest seeded team to make the playoffs in this division, they entered, or ended the season, should I say, on a bit of a hot streak. Of course, they're only a couple years removed from winning the Stanley Cup, and so they have that experience, they have that depth, they have sort of that tenacity that maybe Colorado hasn't quite developed yet. They're a bit of a younger team, haven't had as much playoff success, and so I could see the Blues giving the Avalanche a bit of a test, despite, on paper, Colorado having more skill. And so I think this will be a fun series. It'll be a grind. In the end, though, I do think the Avalanche will be able to prevail. St. Louis will put up a fight, but I'm taking Colorado in 6 games to win this matchup. And then the other matchup that I think could be sneaky interesting has the 2-seeded Vegas Golden Knights up against the 3-seeded Minnesota Wild. And this should be fun. Now, I know, again, this is one where on paper the Vegas Golden Knights really seem to have a juggernaut of a team. Very few holes on this roster, high-end talent in net, up front, on D, super skilled team, should have a lot of success in this playoffs, and they've really been firing on all cylinders almost all season long. But I think that the Wild are maybe a little bit quietly a tough opponent. I mean, we've all seen how good Kirill Kaprizov has been in his rookie season. I think almost for sure going to win the Rookie of the Year, really giving them that elite scoring, that high-end talent, setting the league on fire a little bit. But the Wild have a team behind him that also is very, very solid, can run teams to the ground, can grind you, can really just sort of play that tight-checking, difficult-to-play against hockey that has a lot of success in the playoffs. And in fact, in the regular season, they fared fairly well against the Vegas Golden Knights. And so this really is one that I think will go down to the wire. And I'm very tempted to take the Wild in an upset. I think they definitely have a good shot at it. But at the end of the day, this Vegas Golden Knights team is just so skilled, so talented. They have basically very few flaws. And so I think the Wild are a super tough team, very challenging. They, unfortunately, though, are up against a team in Vegas who has just so much high-end talent that that's going to be enough for them to very closely prevail against a super difficult to play against team in Minnesota. So I'm taking the Vegas Golden Knights in 7 games in this very close series that I think really could go either way. Vegas, though, I think will ultimately have the edge. The next division we're going to take a look at, another very talented one, is the East Division, and this first matchup has the 1-seeded Pittsburgh Penguins up against the 4-seeded New York Islanders. Now, I think we all know how good this Penguins team is. Of course, high-end talent with Crosby and Malkin, but they have more than that as well. A lot of depth, solid coaching, just a well-rounded, high-powered squad that could definitely make some noise in this postseason. But I really do like this Islanders team, and I know on paper they may not have the high-end skill that the Penguins have. They may not have that Stanley Cup championship pedigree that Pittsburgh has, of course, winning the cup only a few years ago. But I think, despite all that, this is a team that's very similar to Minnesota or, I don't know, just those well-coached, solid, grinding rosters that can really give teams trouble in the playoffs. And so, while I think a lot of the time these teams push their higher skilled opponents to the edge and maybe don't prevail at the end of the day, I'd like to pick a few upsets, and I think the Islanders may just have a chance at pulling off this upset. And so I think this is a series that goes the distance. I think Pittsburgh is talented, they can score, they have a lot of skill, but this Islanders team is really going to test them. And in the end, I think the Islanders will get the better of them. And so I am going with the upset here and picking the New York Islanders to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in 7 games in this first round matchup. The other matchup in the first round of the East Division, another very good one between the 2-seeded Washington Capitals and the 3-seeded Boston Bruins. And I think I might be tempted to go with another upset here because the Capitals are a good team. You have Chara going against his old squad. Ovechkin, of course, is just an elite goal scorer, very well coached, solid depth, talent, all of that. All of these things you need to make a team that can make some noise in the playoffs. But the Bruins are really just a very, very good squad. Of course, we're in the Stanley Cup Finals only 2 years ago, fell short, looking for revenge, and the team has, I think, only gotten better since then. I absolutely love the Taylor Hall addition at the deadline. He has been amazing for them so far. Super eager to see how he performs in the playoffs, and I think he's going to perform well. Add on to the talent that Boston already has, that elite top line, good goaltending, good defense. I think that'll be enough for the Bruins to pull off, on paper, this mild upset, and I'm taking Boston then to beat the Capitals here in 6 games. And then our final division of the first round, the Central Division. And this first matchup between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators. The Predators do have some playoff experience, some depth. They ended the season on a bit of a hot streak, but I think this might just be one of the more lopsided first-round matchups. I think it's this one and then maybe those 2 first-round matchups in the North Division where I think the higher seeds will have the most edge because Carolina, they've gone a little bit under the radar maybe because it's not a traditional hockey market. They haven't really been getting that media attention, but don't overlook the Hurricanes. This team is very, very good. They have been another one of those squads that has really just been firing on all cylinders to end the season, really heating up, and really have, again, all of those ingredients that on paper make up a team that should be able to make some noise in the playoffs. And so even though Nashville maybe has some more veteran experience, maybe has been a bit of momentum on their side from ending the season strong, they have a hot goalie in UC Saros, but I think Carolina is probably just on another level. And I think for the Predators, they should be happy they got there, but Carolina, I think, should be able to take this one pretty easily. So I'm picking the Hurricanes in 5 games. And finally, our last matchup of the first round, a very, very interesting one. Battle of Florida between the 2-seeded Florida Panthers and the 3-seeded Tampa Bay Lightning. Man, this one should be a lot of fun. Florida, much like Carolina, one of those teams that's in a non-traditional hockey market, maybe hasn't been getting as much attention from media, from fans, but don't overlook them. This Panthers team is the real deal. I am so intrigued and excited to see what they can do in the playoffs, and I think it'll be fascinating to see how they perform, but they do not have an easy road because this very first matchup they face, even though they're the higher seed, they are up against the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is just a very tough draw. Now, the Lightning have been having more difficulties this season. A lot of injuries that have hampered them, though those players may be back and are expected to be back for the postseason, have been slumping a little bit, maybe not at their top of their game all season long, which I think can be expected sometimes. There's always a little bit of that Stanley Cup hangover, but I don't really expect it to continue in the playoffs. The Lightning aren't just going to roll over. They're not going to fold, even though the Panthers are a very good team. And so what I think this means is that you have maybe one of the best matchups of the first round here, because these are two squads that have a lot of talent, a lot of skill, a lot of depth, really can roll all four lines, have made some moves at the trade deadline, made some additions. I really love Sam Bennett on the Panthers. I think he's going to be a great playoff performer for them. Florida has questions in goal. Tampa maybe has better goaltending. It's really just a matchup that I could see being almost a toss-up, but in the end, though I am so intrigued by this Panthers team, and I really am, I think, honestly pulling for them to maybe snag an upset here, I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done against a team as talented as Tampa Bay, with that Stanley Cup victory right in the rearview mirror and looking for more. And so this is another series that I absolutely see going the distance. I could see it totally going either way, but at the end of the day, I think I have to take the experience of Tampa Bay. I am picking the Lightning here in 7 games. But that's going to wrap up my predictions for the first round. Moving on to the second round and these now divisional championship matchups. The first one, moving back up to Canada, we have this North Division matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Edmonton Oilers. And this should be fun. Two teams with, I think, two of the top 5 players in hockey in Connor McDavid and Auston Matthews, and then an incredible supporting cast too with Draisaitl, with Marner. So much scoring, so much talent, a little bit loose on defense and maybe some weaknesses in goal, but I think this will make this series such an exciting, high-scoring, fast, talented one that should be must-watch television, I think, because seeing some players who are really just elite and at the top of their game, pushing each other, going head-to-head, two teams with a lot of expectations, a lot of history, markets that are really pushing for that success, demanding success. That means there's going to be a lot of intensity to this series, a lot of action, and I think it'll be a good one. I think even though Edmonton, though, might have the edge at the very top with that high-end talent, McDavid, I don't know what else you can say about him that hasn't already been said. He is transcendent. He's on another level. He has been absolutely elite this season. But I think even though Edmonton has the edge with that, and maybe that'll be enough, who knows? I think Toronto has the edge everywhere else in that they have more depth behind that top-end talent. They have, I think, more solid goaltending, maybe a bit better defense core, better coaching, I think, really just more talent across all 4 lines. And so I think because of that, the Leafs are the team to beat in this series. And McDavid may just be able to do it all by himself. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him do that. I think that'll be enough for him to take care of the Jets pretty easily. But Toronto is just another animal. And I think they finally are able to exercise those playoff demons somewhat here. So I think the Leafs are able to handle the Oilers. So that's my prediction. I'm taking Toronto here in 6 games. Now down to the West Division. This matchup is going to be crazy. The Colorado Avalanche against the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think whichever team wins here has a very good chance of making a run to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's almost disappointing that they're slated to meet this early in the playoffs. But the benefit is that we may just see what could be a legendary series, because these two teams, both of them, I think, are favorites to make a run for the Stanley Cup. They are so talented at all levels of the game. They really have all of those pieces you need for a true Stanley Cup contender. You have the high-end talent with McKinnon on the Avalanche, Mark Stone on the Vegas Golden Knights. You have great defense core, Cale Makar, Shea Theodore, both of those defensemen are Norris contenders on each team respectively. You have good goaltending. In Vegas, you may have elite goaltending. Fleury, I think, could be the Vezina Trophy winner. He's been incredible, really turning back the clock this season. What this means is that all the ingredients are there for a heavyweight battle between two absolutely star-studded teams who, in any given year, could absolutely be a Stanley Cup champion. But in the end, unfortunately, only one of them is going to be able to move on. I think no matter who wins this one, the other team is going to put up quite a fight. I don't see any way one of these teams is able to just roll the other over. I think it absolutely can go the distance. I see it going to 7 games, but in that 7th game, I have to go with the Colorado Avalanche. I think this is going to be an incredible test for them. This is a difficult road. It's a massive challenge, but I think if they overcome it with Vegas, it really should set up the path for them to keep making noise in the playoffs. And so I think it'll be an amazing test for them. I'm so excited to see how it goes, but in the end, I think the Avalanche have what it takes to get it done and knock off the Golden Knights in what should be an incredible series, beating Vegas in 7 games. Over in the East Division, we have a matchup between the Boston Bruins and the New York Islanders. The Islanders, I think, have that sort of gritty mentality, that ability to win tight-checking close games that'll be enough to push them past the Pittsburgh Penguins. Will it be enough to push them past Boston as well? I don't think so, honestly. I mean, last year the Islanders had that run, made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals on the backs of just that very well-coached, hard-to-play-against roster. They ran into a team that was a lot more talented than them in Tampa Bay, also had sort of that skill, that tenacity, and that wasn't enough for them to overcome. And I think that's going to be similar to what happens against Boston this year. The Islanders are going to put up a fight, that's for sure. This is not an easy out by any means, but this Boston team is just very, very skilled, very talented, absolutely loaded, and I think because of that, I like the Bruins here to knock off the Islanders in 6 games, but it should be a great series as well. The final series of the second round here is going to be between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes. Another series that is going to be a lot of fun, and I think we are in for a treat this playoffs. There are so many good matchups. Here in the second round, though, I think the Colorado-Vegas matchup, again, and then this Carolina-Tampa Bay matchup are going to be the two that really, I think, set the tone for the rest of the playoffs. 2 heavyweights going up against each other in each matchup, with the winner, I think, having a really good shot to make some noise and go further in the playoffs should they overcome this challenge in the second round. But in terms of this matchup between Carolina and Tampa Bay, again, I think people might overlook the Hurricanes a little bit. Look at Tampa Bay, who had that absolutely dominant season last year, won the Stanley Cup, hasn't really changed much from that roster. May have some injury issues, but on paper looks just as good should those players come back and be at full strength and if the team starts clicking. But despite all of that, Carolina is a beast. They really are. This team, I am such a fan of them and what they've been doing, how they've built their roster, how they've built their squad. Still some questions in goal, that's for sure. But just when you consider the players that they have, one of the best defense groups in the entire NHL, a lot of high-end talent up front, depth, good coaching, all of those intangibles that make a sneaky dark horse playoff contender. And so I think it's very disappointing for them that they're going up against a team as skilled as Tampa. And man, again, am I so tempted to pick the Hurricanes in the upset. I really think they could do it, but at the end of the day, I think that playoff experience makes such a huge difference, and the Hurricanes unfortunately don't have too much of that, while the Lightning know how to win. I mean, they just won the Stanley Cup, so I think that's, at the end of the day, going to be the difference here. For Carolina, though, they shouldn't get their head down. I think this is going to be a great learning experience. I think they have a great shot at pulling off the upset, but even if they don't, I think this is a team that could be a cup contender for years to come, and I'm just going to say it now. I see the Hurricanes winning the cup within the next 5 years. I really think they're trending in the right direction. They're going to push Tampa Bay to the wire, but maybe this just isn't quite their year yet. And so, because of that, I see this series going down the stretch, but at the end of the day, I'm going with the Lightning in 7 games to pull off the win. So that means that for the semifinals, with all the teams reseeded, I am predicting we're going to have matchups between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning on one side, and on the other side between the Boston Bruins and the Colorado Avalanche. This should be fun. The 4 division winners, it'll be so intriguing to see how they match up against each other because, of course, they've only been playing their own division the entire year long, right? And so Toronto, of course, has been amazing, but a lot of people think, well, they've just been beating up on a weak Canadian division because the North really has had 6 teams, you could say, that haven't been at their best all season long, a couple bottom feeders. Whereas you consider a team like Colorado, well, they have, if they get here, going up against another one of the league's best in the Vegas Golden Knights, a very solid team in Minnesota, also though beating up on those bottom feeders in California. And so it's very tough to judge without that cross-division competition. We don't really know how these teams will stack up against each other. So it is entirely possible one team might just completely blow the doors off the other, and their divisions might have just been at different difficulties this year. There's really no way to know. And so because of that, there's this fascinating X factor here. We really don't know what's going to happen. It's all going to be up in the air, but I think that'll make things a lot of fun. The first series I'm going to be taking a look at, though, is this matchup between the Colorado Avalanche and the Boston Bruins. And in this one, these two teams, again, really just seem to almost have it all. I mean, they have the goaltending mostly, they have great defense, they have that high-end talent, they've made the moves you need to make to be a cup contender, and I think because of that, we should be in for a treat with these series. But at the end of the day, only one of these teams can move on to the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think Boston will give them a test. In the end, though, I like Colorado here to move on. I'm picking the Avalanche in 7 games to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. And so the Avalanche will be the one team there. Who's going to be matching up against them? Well, on the other side, we have this matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this is one where I think a little bit of divisional strength is going to come into it because I see Toronto making it here because they have a little bit of an easier road in the North Division. But if they were up against a team maybe like Vegas, like Carolina, they might not be in the semifinals. One of those teams might be there instead. And so even though I think Toronto can get there because of the path ahead of them in the North Division, I think the road should end at that. And so with Matthews, with Marner, with that high-end goal-scoring talent, they'll be able to put up a fight against Tampa Bay, no doubt. But when you consider everything beyond that at all levels of the game, I think Tampa Bay is just the better team. And because of that, I have the Lightning advancing in 6 games. So that means I am predicting that your 2021 Stanley Cup Final will be between the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this would be an incredible series to watch. 2 teams that are some of the absolute best in the NHL. Really just all you want in a cup contender, with those players who are elite up front, with solid goaltending, with great defensemen. Victor Hedman and Cale Makar, respectively, are both incredible. 2 of the league's best. This should be what would be an amazing matchup. And man, I really want something like this to happen because this would be, I think, an absolute toss-up. Could totally go down to the wire, and no matter what happens, would be a ton of fun. At the end of the day, though, only one team can advance. And so even though on paper, Tampa Bay is this team that's coming off a Stanley Cup win, they have that experience, they have that depth, they have this talent, they have everything you need to be a juggernaut and a team that I think might be the favorite to win the Stanley Cup this season. But they're up against a team in Colorado that I think just has something special about them. I don't know what it is, but this Avalanche team, I think this is their year. I really believe in them. I think with McKinnon, with that top line, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar on defense, the depth behind them, the coaching, the experience they've slowly been building over these last few postseason runs, I think all the ingredients are here for it to come together, for it to make this season the perfect one for Colorado. I think they will be the champions this year. So that means I am predicting that your 2021 Stanley Cup champions will be the Colorado Avalanche. Yes, that's right. I'm picking the Avalanche. I think they knock off Tampa Bay here in 7 games to bring home the Stanley Cup. Now, they have a hard road ahead of them, no doubt. In the first round, up against St. Louis, no easy matchup here. The Blues coming off a cup win only a couple years ago. Vegas, of course, already talked about how talented Vegas is, and I think if Colorado slips against Vegas, then the Golden Knights would have a great chance of making a run to the Stanley Cup. In the semifinals, going up against a team potentially like the Boston Bruins, again, experienced, talented, they are going up against 3 and then make it 4 very solid teams in Tampa Bay. The road ahead is difficult. I think that experience is going to really just make them better. Beating those teams, if they are able to, is only going to develop them. It's going to be a grind. It's going to be a challenge. This is one of the years where there are just so many skilled teams in the field. I think there are 6 or 7 that could honestly make a case for being the Stanley Cup champions this year, but Colorado just has, I think, something different about them, and I think that'll be enough for them to go all the way. So I'm taking Colorado here. I think they'll be your Stanley Cup champions, knocking off Tampa Bay in 7 games. I'm going with Nathan MacKinnon as the Conn Smythe winner, the playoff MVP. I think, though, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, we are in for a treat with another exciting year of playoff hockey in front of us. And so sit back, enjoy it, watch it, take it all in, and please let me know your predictions too. I love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you thought of mine and who you think will win the Stanley Cup down in the comments section below. But that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more NHL content throughout the playoffs, in the offseason, all season long, as well as coverage of other sports as well. But that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.